right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. As you guys know, the 2022 Indy Pro wrapped up yesterday. I've got the results for you guys today, and today we've got the scorecard so we can take a look at how close this competition really was. So, as you guys know, in first place, you had Blessing Awodibu taking home his first professional win. In second place, you had Charles Griffin taking home second place. He did not look very happy about that decision. In third place, you had Max Charles. This was another surprising placing, where he was actually able to edge out Justin Rodriguez, who is the returning defending champion. Justin wound up in fourth place. And in fifth place, you had Brent Swanson. So let's look at these placings here and look at some of these scores. So Justin Rodriguez, I think, was probably the biggest surprise placing of the show. Like I said, he's last year's champion coming here to defend his title. He was not able to successfully do that. Not only was he not able to do that, but he was not in the top two call-out with Blessing and Charles. And a lot of people are wondering why that is. And to me, the main thing was conditioning. We saw it pre-judging, he was off. His midsection was off. His conditioning was off. He looked like he was still, to be honest, like a couple weeks out from the show. I've seen some people speculate in the comments that maybe the real show that he's trying to peak for is New York, and maybe that was the show he's really aiming for and not necessarily as much the Indy Pro. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but whatever the case was, he missed the mark, and we saw that at prejudging, and at the finals, it looks like his score was actually worse at finals. So what we needed to see from Justin, for him to crack that top three, like I said at prejudging, was for him to improve from prejudging to the night show, because he's got kind of a history of changing his physique, whether it be for the positive or the negative between finals and prejudging. And he was not able to do that for the positive this time. I think he looked about the same, if not worse. And the judges actually scored him worse, 13 at finals and 12 at prejudging. And if you guys don't know how bodybuilding works, the lower score is the better score. The closer you are to first, the lower you score. And if you look at Max Charles' score, and he's the guy that took third place, he improved from judging to finals. So he was able to make up that ground on Justin between the two shows because he got better for the night show, and he wound up taking that third place spot. Now, Blessing and Max Charles, this was the big battle of the show. Top two call out, just the two of them. I was actually surprised by the scoring for this. So Blessing Awodibu won with straight votes for first. He had 3 points at prejudging, 3 points at finals, total of 6, and he placed first. So this scorecard basically unanimously reflects at both prejudging and finals, all the judges had Blessing in first, at least based on the score. And to be honest, I thought it was going to be a lot closer. So Blessing had a final score of 6, and then Charles Griffin actually had a final score of 12. So that means the judges, if you're talking about 3 judges here, 3 had him in first, 3 judges had him in second at prejudging, and 3 judges had him at second in finals for a total of 6 points at each, totaling 12, so a 6-point gap between Blessing and Charles, and I honestly thought it was going to be a lot closer. I thought it might be a 1-point decision, because both Blessing and Charles, they look so improved from the last time that we saw them on stage. And I do want to point out here, one thing that I thought was amazing about this show, this is something that you do not see every day. This was a men's open bodybuilding contest, and the top 2 call out for this show, both competitors, the 2 best open bodybuilders in this lineup, were both hitting deep vacuum poses at both finals and prejudging. It's a new era for open bodybuilding. Like I said, when Classic Physique first came around, this was unheard of. Back in 2015, 2016, around that time, you were not going to see 2, you probably wouldn't see 1, but you were definitely not going to see 2, the top 2 guys at a show in open bodybuilding both hitting a vacuum pose. That's kind of why Classic came around, because all those classic attributes were so far removed from what bodybuilding had become. And now you've got a show like the Indy Pro, an Olympia qualifier, where both the top bodybuilders can hit a vacuum pose. I thought that was really impressive, and I thought that was noteworthy, and it's something I wanted to talk about in this video, because I think, like I said, it's not something you're going to see every day, and it might not be something you ever see again at a pro show where the top 2 in open bodybuilding are both hitting a vacuum pose. It's pretty impressive and pretty crazy, and I think both these guys deserve some props for that. Now, that being said, I think both Blessing and Charles were at their all-time best. Charles has been around a little bit longer than Blessing, actually significantly longer than Blessing. He's been competing as a pro for a while. I think this is the best professional package we've ever seen from Charles Griffin, and he looked disappointed when he got second, and rightfully so. I think this was the best version that we ever saw of him. Blessing, also the best version of Blessing we've ever seen. He improved his legs. His conditioning was tighter. He wasn't flat like he was at last year's Indy Pro. He improved pretty much everything that people knocked him for. And for that, I think he deserved the victory. Now, I did predict Charles would beat him. And my reason for that was because overall, Charles being a shorter, more compact bodybuilder, Blessing being taller, Charles being around longer, having more mature muscle, having a more filled out frame, and what I thought was a more balanced frame overall. I think he was more evenly filled out, evenly proportioned, because he does have a smaller frame to fill out than Blessing, and he's been filling it out for a longer time than Blessing has, specifically the lower body. But overall, I think Blessing looked even more drastically different at this show than Charles looked at his last show. And I think Blessing deserved the win. At the end of the day, I got to be honest, when I was watching prejudging, my eyes were drawn to Blessing more so than Charles. But the longer that I was watching prejudging, the more that I looked at Charles, even though my eyes were drawn to Blessing the whole time because he got such a commanding stage presence, such a big frame, and such an impressive physique, the more I looked over at Charles and didn't let myself get distracted by how Blessing looked. I thought that Charles looked overall to be the more complete bodybuilder. And to me, overall, he looked tighter and more conditioned at prejudging. Maybe at finals, he lost a little bit of ground, even though the scorecards don't necessarily reflect that. But I do think Blessing deserved the win. He was at his all-time best. He looked good. He made the improvements where they needed to be. And that's why I was even more disappointed by the message that I got from Blessing Awodibu last night. So me and Blessing have always been cool. We've met multiple times. We've talked multiple times. We've always had a pretty decent relationship. And late last night at like 11 p.m., he messaged me in response to my story about him and Charles being the top two. And he says, your reports are stupid, bro. You used to be cool. And I did not respond to that because I didn't really have anything to say because I was kind of disappointed to see that Blessing was like that. Because look, at the end of the day, I've never hated on Blessing. I've always been a fan of Blessing. I thought me and Blessing were cool. We've always talked. But the video in that story that he replied to was the video where I said my pick would be Charles Griffin. I don't know if he took that as hate, if he was offended by that, but I've never hated on Blessing Awodibu. If anything, any of the criticisms that I had for Blessing were criticisms that he improved upon this time that we saw him on stage. My biggest criticism of him was his legs, and he clearly improved those for this show. And I think that's a big part of the reason why he won. I don't think anything I've ever said about Blessing could be interpreted as negative, just honest, constructive criticism. And this is one of the things that I don't like about this job. This happens all the time. When you got bodybuilders competing in a show, if I predict a bodybuilder to win that is not the bodybuilder that won, they get butthurt. They take it as a knock on them, as a negative, as a hater comment. But the fact of the matter is not everybody can win a show. I can only predict one winner. I can't predict everybody to win, so everybody else in that lineup is probably going to feel some type of way that I didn't predict them to win. And that's kind of why I was disappointed to see this from Blessing because, like I said, we've met, we've talked, we've been cool, and I thought he kind of understood the game a little bit better. But I think he's mad that I didn't predict him to win, which I just don't get it. I mean, I definitely think he deserved the victory. He looked crazy improved, best version of him that we've ever seen. He's going to the Olympia, and I think, honestly, he's going to do well at the Olympia. I'll tell you right now, I think Blessing has a shot at the top 10. He's going to the New York Pro in a week, and he's probably going to be top 3 there as well. I had him in my Indy Pro top 3 basically the entire time that we've been talking about this show. I don't know, man. It's just one of the things that I just don't like about doing what I do. I try to be the most, I give my opinion still, but I try to be as neutral and respectful as possible to every bodybuilder that I talk about. You guys have seen, there's other YouTubers that do the same thing, but they bash guys. They hate on guys. They're super disrespectful, and I don't do any of that. And so I'm like as neutral and as nice as you can get, and I still piss people off. And I just really don't get it. I'm so neutral on some things that people complain that I'm too neutral, and I need to quit sitting on the fence and give a stronger opinion. But as neutral as my opinions are, it still, seems to be interpreted as negativity or hate, and I really don't get it. So if you ever wondered about why through the years, when I began my channel, I was definitely a lot more opinionated, probably a lot more critical and a lot more harsh. And through the years, my channel has evolved into more of a neutral, kind of unbiased, like reporting style versus so much as an opinion piece. And the reason for that is because I go to these shows. I meet these guys that I talk about, and so many of them get pissed at like the slightest thing that you say. I try to stay as neutral as possible, but still give an opinion. And I don't know, man. As far as online bodybuilding commentary and opinion videos go, I don't think it gets much more nice than the stuff that I say, or much more middle of the fence type thing than what my channel is. So in any case, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about the results of the 2022 Indy Pro. Charles versus Blessing. Do you think it was a fair decision? Let me know. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Blessing, if you're watching, I still love you, bro. And as always, I love you guys too. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.